there was a lot of noise over the crypto story over the last few days, and people saying, "Oh, this is the end of crypto, etc., etc." And in fact, my headline for this show was, "What the f is happening in crypto?" Right? Because I got confused insofar that I don't see it the same way as some of those doomsters were. You know, there is a volatility to crypto, right? We know that volatility has been up and down. And here's a bit of data that shows that if you look at major corrections from all-time highs from September 2010 to date, it happens. It happens relatively frequently, but then it comes back. So tell me, my friend, what is really going on in crypto? Is this the end of the world, or is it actually just another little blip along the road?
First of all, well done for a very balanced and fair opening to what's happening in crypto. Second of all, no one knows. Third of all, I look at the data and I look at the facts. So let's get into that. Why it's different this time, Martin, it's very different this time for many reasons. First of all, what typically happens in a 4 year cycle, particularly where we are now, we have the halving, which was a while ago, and then you have the all-time high. What actually happened this time was that we had the all-time high for Bitcoin before the halving. So that was different. What was also different was that we had the US government backing crypto to the extent that they weren't SEC angry against crypto, but they were SEC friendly towards crypto. That's never happened. The next thing is that we've never had spot-backed Bitcoin ETFs or ETH ETFs in the United States. That's different. Then we can see the mining power is getting bigger and bigger, and there's more exposure to crypto from institutions. That's never happened. We have other federal governments, if you look at El Salvador, Bhutan, and other nations adopting this technology. That's never happened. So many people say you shouldn't say this time is different, when in reality, many things are different. Now we go on to patterns that we've seen before. What's also different this time, before I go on to what's happening with gold and the M2 money supply and the interest rates, what's different this time is typically we have a thing called Rectember, where September is a terrible month, and October we call Uptober or Rocktober, where it's a brilliant month. Well, looking at September, it wasn't that bad. We actually finished the month higher than where we started. So that wasn't too bad. So it wasn't really a Rectember. Then we go into October, where it's typically time to go to the moon, and we can see that we've pulled back. Now, some people have said, well, it's the end of the world, but we've seen this volatility before. Now we go on to what is similar, what the patterns do normally play out. We can see there is a very strong correlation when gold hits an all-time high. In Bitcoin, we get very excited about that. The Peter Schiffs and the gold buffs go, "Ha, we told you." And we're like, no, 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 you've just paved the way for us, because we can see over and over again that when gold hits an all-time high, Bitcoin is next. And that's why we're very excited about that. The next thing we can see is that when the M2 increases, that pumps.